everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar on how to support your hybrid IT environment with LogicMonitor. I'm Katie D, online and social media editor at SD Times, and to kick things off, I just wanted to mention a few quick housekeeping items. This webinar will be recorded and available for on-demand viewing on sdtimes.com around 24 hours after the session. LogicMonitor will also be accepting audience questions, so feel free to send any of those to the chat. Today, we will learn about how to future-proof your hybrid IT with a platform approach to observability, how to navigate the different stages of cloud maturity, and how to determine what's best for your business and teams on your cloud journey. Now, to dive deeper into this topic, let's turn it over to today's speaker, Colette Tomasiak, Senior Product Marketing Manager at LogicMonitor. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Katie. So we're excited to start this webinar, and basically this topic is going to be about IT and in general your operations not being a juggling act, because we want to show enterprises how we can support you at different stages of your digital transformation to help drive that hybrid IT environment with full visibility along the way at every step of your journey. But to kind of kick things off a little bit, just wanted to give you the scoop on who is LogicMonitor, as this will kind of set the premise of the conversation. So basically who we are and what it is that we actually do is driving a unified observability platform. So at LogicMonitor, we really offer a comprehensive view and visibility across your infrastructure, your networks, clouds, containers, applications, services, all leveraging robust context with detailed correlation and that layer of intelligence to give you the insights you actually need to enable proactive automation and problem resolution across all of your ops teams. So with that, what we're going to cover in today's webinar is more around those cloud pain points, that race and the speed and the scale for rapid innovation. We're going to cover those different levels of cloud maturity and what that looks like in the context of a successful digital transformation. And we're going to cover how LogicMonitor supports enterprises at those different stages. So digital transformation isn't one size fits all. And the cloud is limitless, which is a key factor in its appeal, but also a major part of the problem. And this is why digital transformation and in general, an organization's journey to cloud isn't one size fits all. And this also includes the approach to hybrid. Enterprises are really looking to innovate, and they're looking to do so at rapid speed, but to achieve both your business outcomes as well as deliver superior end user experiences. But the majority of enterprises will still continue to maintain some mix of a complex hybrid infrastructure, as well as diversify their cloud strategies across multi-cloud environments. Therefore, increasing control to reduce risk is more than just table stakes at this point. So the reality is, and especially for most CIOs, is that simple cloud projects have grown exponentially in complexity to hybrid, multi-cloud architecture with hundreds of cloud services in IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS forms. So cloud operations really is a multi-domain collaboration with network ops, with DevOps, your SREs, security ops, IT ops, and all of these functions needing equal access, cross-functional visibility, and common data sets. But in contrast, if you're continuing to operate in silos across these disparate functions and without consolidation and visibility, this really hinders an organization on their path to cloud. And this is where it leaves a business with essentially a hefty price to pay for the cost of their innovation and that desire for extensibility. So with cloud and the evolution and how do you keep up with change, it's really about digital transformation where you're delivering new services, you're innovating, and you're trying to reduce those operational efficiencies. And where that leads is speed and agility is essential. And those business impacts and IT impacts all translate to the business. And now you have this big focus on digital experiences. And then when it comes to cloud migration, essentially everyone's doing it, but it's putting them in that hybrid operating state consistently. And services are really spread across multiple clouds, mixed with on-premise environments. Complexity has significantly increased. And now there's that pivot and that focus on observability. And then you're looking at efficiency. You're managing on really tight budgets, and you're trying to not overextend people or your infrastructure to accommodate this growth. And now there's a lower effort to enable monitoring. You're trying to reduce the friction between these different teams with competing priorities and initiatives, but you're also trying to enable that decision making to drive better use of your IT infrastructure and those applications. So what's the state of cloud essentially, or the future of cloud? If you're looking at, I'll bucket it in three categories. So you have cloud use, you have cloud waste, and then optimizing cost. If you're looking at this stat right here, 40% of workloads will be in the cloud, according to Gartner. And then you're looking at another Gartner stat where it's 50% will actually use distributed cloud. So you have all this cloud usage planned by 2023, 2025, and it's rapidly growing. But then you're looking at where companies are spending and how they're utilizing that spend. And then you have an estimated 100 billion that's wasted in migration spend over the next 3 years, as many of these enterprises are citing the cost around migration as that major inhibitor to even start your journey to cloud. Or you're looking at 32% of cloud spend is wasted, and that's a significant 30% increase from the year prior, 2021. So what are most executives and functions looking to prioritize as an initiative going forward? And the number one, according to CRN, is really cost control, that first initiative that is going to level set them across their digital transformation efforts. Okay, so we want to go on this journey to cloud. We want to achieve success. So we're going to look at the pain points. And these aren't all encompassing necessarily, but these are the consolidated ones that come up most often across different levels in an organization. So really you have these kind of silos, and these different types of pains stem from that across an organization. And when it comes to not only cloud, but hybrid as well, anything that is a massive evolution will cause friction. So the pain points with cloud, it's not uncommon for different areas of the business to have different levels of maturity or states that they're operating in. But the silos is what creates the gaps, increased risks, and it drives up those operational expenses. Organizations also really need predictability, and this includes the ability to execute on proper capacity planning and allocating those resources appropriately. But then you have a lack of visibility really across infrastructure, across your services, across your applications, as well as in general on what all of your different ops teams are doing. And this impacts progression because you can't scale what you can't see. So even before achieving observability, which is that constant state of observing that enables you to act with confidence, you need that initial, that discovery, that visibility at a holistic level. So what's the goal then? Or rather the footprint to success. You need to be able to monitor anything. Devices, networks, on-prem, check. You want to monitor distributed branches, or you're operating in a perimeterless footprint outside the office, inside the office, on the go, check. You're using one cloud, maybe two, great, check. Or out of the box capabilities and auto discovery is really essential, but extensibility and personalization to an enterprise's needs at this step is crucial to adapt to the varying or even unique use cases that each individual enterprise has and within their underlying functions. So monitoring anything, step one. The next kind of area is now you're monitoring with maximum visibility. Now you can actually observe everything, and whether that's performance or it's downtime, or you're looking at a reduction or observing a reduction of your average MTTR and your overall remediation efforts, your utilization in different areas, or even your costs. So then with the steady state of observability, this is where you can actually act with confidence. You can drive operational assurance so the business can actually really scale with purpose. And then teams have the data, the tools, the insights, everything necessary to accelerate both transformation as well as innovation, because sometimes you have to sacrifice one for the other. So with the notion of maturity, so I feel like a lot of enterprises get conflicted with, okay, cloud isn't one size fits all, but there's also a linear path to maturity, and there's essentially one type. But really, solutions that you're partnering with and vendors that you're looking at overall, especially in the monitoring space, they need to accommodate your current and your future state. So when it comes to the different levels of maturity, we'll propose a few in terms of what we're seeing in the space. And the first one is your remediation approach. And this entails a reactive state, a proactive state, something predictive, and then something adaptive. The difference between reactive and proactive as it matures is that you can still be essentially proactively reactive if you have all the right information and you're leveraging correlation and insights that specifically pinpoints the root cause or essentially gives you the needle in that haystack, and you can act quickly and efficiently. And that's kind of that shift from I'm being reactive without any context and I don't know which team's responsible or where the issue is. So that's that kind of shift. And eventually enterprises want to mature more towards that predictive, like, great, how can I avoid this in the future? How can I scale my operations? And then you're moving towards adaptive, where you can start to work together within your systems, within your company initiatives to kind of remediate adaptively to help your business grow. So that's one kind of maturity row that we're looking at. Another one is cloud readiness. So we're looking at on-premise. You're largely on-premise. Maybe you're dabbling a little bit with cloud applications like an O365 or a Slack or baby steps to cloud, but mainly on-premise. Or then you're looking at lift and shift, where you have cloud VMs or it's really IaaS only. Or you have refactored applications or you're serverless. And then you're kind of heading towards microservices. So that's another kind of maturity curve. And then you're looking at your monitoring posture. Largely where enterprise journeys have started out are infrastructure centric. You're basing your monitoring approach on the infrastructure you know and you have, and whether that's been heavily on premises or network focused, or it scales more towards cloud, that's still within that infrastructure centric kind of approach or monitoring posture. As companies evolve, that's when you're starting to look at applications and you take a more application-centric approach to your monitoring, and then it falls back into infrastructure and everything's underlying layered, but all kind of evolves with each other. That next step is edge-centric. It expands beyond just the applications, beyond just the infrastructure to the edge and every other kind of essentially entry point or communication point between your application, your services, your infrastructure. And then the really advanced state of maturity in your monitoring posture is either and or your behavior-centric approach or experience-centric approach, where you're driving your company's innovation, your digital transformation based on the experiences that your teams are building, creating to drive not only business continuity, but productivity in terms of how it affects your end users and what that means for your company's growth overall. But the key is with maturity is that you have these, and these aren't definitive, but you have these different essentially layers of maturity. They don't also have to be linear in terms of where you are on that path at all. It differs from each organization. So let's say you have one enterprise and their remediation approach is overwhelmed. They're still really reactive. But in the context of cloud readiness, they're heading or already in that lift and shift state. And then their monitoring posture is actually a little more advanced in terms of what they're looking at. They're edge-centric, they're focused on these different things that expand beyond just traditional infrastructure, but their remediation approach is still a little bit immature or outdated or lacking, and it's causing a negative impact to some of these other areas for future advancement. Another example is you can have an organization where their remediation approach is proactive. They're able to pinpoint root cause analysis, troubleshooting is simplified, and they're operating either off of refactored applications or serverless, but they're more experience focused, behavior centric focused, and their kind of predictive or adaptive remediation approach doesn't necessarily match that monitoring posture that they're going off of. So the correlation is different for every organization, but the linear kind of essential path really varies, and it's okay to be at different levels of maturity but it's also really great for an enterprise to look at these different areas and do almost an assessment in terms of, are we tracking where we need to be for our goals, for driving that acceleration, for continuing innovation, so we can deliver great services, great products, and increase that business productivity overall. So just something to consider. And when we're looking at LogicMonitor, what we really want to do for our partners and our customers is provide solutions that really future-proof your hybrid IT today, tomorrow, where you're going, from on-prem, hybrid, cloud, everywhere in between. So how do we do that? And similar to how we have that cloud maturity, kind of those options in terms of where an organization is, we offer a similar approach into the solutions and the platform that we have for where is the right fit for an enterprise. So if you needed to be proactive today, out of the box, this is something you can achieve where you're shifting from that reactive state. You need to be proactive. So with LogicMonitor, you're getting less alerts. You have a single source of truth, one tool from day one to have that holistic visibility across your infrastructure. You're reducing that noise by 80, 90% on average. You're able to manage cost and spend of your cloud migration and what that capacity looks like. You're able to eliminate context switching by not depending on either native solutions in cloud or even multiple tools across different domains to understand that monitoring data, that context for that full visibility that drives observability essentially. And then what you're able to do from that proactive today stage is auto discover all of your resources in minutes, because that discovery is essential. It ties back to that you can't scale what you can't see. So you can do that with agentless collectors. So proactive today, good step one for those that are in that more reactive state. If you're looking at predictive tomorrow, essentially LogicMonitor really offers the industry's most extensible monitoring platform. And how do we do that is supporting that seamless expansion and scale, regardless of where a business is, but also regardless of the technologies that they use. We want businesses to be able to monitor anything. They should be able to monitor anything so they can then observe everything. And we do that with over 2,000 integrations out of the box. Really strong, intelligent AI ops to help automate and drive or accelerate that remediation and what those decisions look like so you can act with confidence. But then we also offer limitless customization because no two enterprises are the same in terms of the services, applications that they're using. A lot of times the flexibility to drive those custom webhooks and APIs allows for that personalization that works with the existing technology you have without having to go out and spend an additional amount of money on new tools to fit. That kind of next level is adaptive for the future. So with LogicMonitor, we're really aiming to put you on that path to observability. If you're ready for it out of the box from day one, that's great. But if you're not, once you've achieved that proactive state, you're moving towards predictive and you're ready for something adaptive, that's where we can kind of start outlining that path on what observability looks like for your organization. Our engineering teams really focus on a platform that evolves as quickly as technology does. So you're never out of date with what you're monitoring, with where you're scaling, and there is no friction between the solution that you're dependent on to what your overall company goals are. The other thing for adaptivity in general is unifying those teams. With LogicMonitor, if you're looking at observability, you have metrics, traces, logs, you have all of your intelligence that correlates that information, but then you have all these different teams, whether it's in a CIO's organization or a CTO's organization. So you want that single source of truth because that data is critical and how you apply that in the action that you take is essential to achieving those goals. So you want to unify those teams. You want to streamline those workflows, which could get really complex and convoluted the more tools you have or the more disparate your teams are. And at the end of the day, the main goal that I think everyone is looking, especially for your executive leaders, is to optimize your CapEx and OpEx. And then what we kind of strive to do just on a daily basis for our customers is really being prescriptive always. Because again, you have the data, but then what do you do with it? So guiding our customers within a solution and what's going on in their environment on cool, this is happening, what next? Or this could happen, what next? So being that prescriptive partner on an ongoing basis with powerful automation, just to even simplify your operations, how your teams work streams across the board. The other big piece with being prescriptive is you have this big visibility across your infrastructure, your technology ecosystem, but you have that correlation, that context across everything. And then you want to essentially, at the end of the day, for all of your teams, drive confidence. Nobody wants to spend time guessing. It negatively impacts troubleshooting. You're spending way too many resources on things that really could be remediated with more efficiency. And at the same time, what you want to do in a prescriptive state is have that confidence that your solution is monitoring what you need, taking action where it should happen, but then it gives your teams that time to focus on innovation. And then if we look at that kind of maturity, those layers that we had before, accelerating innovation really allows your monitoring posture to shift from infrastructure or even application or edge centric and operate on that behavior centric or even experience centric model. And that's where you're going to have that business productivity really scale on a large level. So that's it. And I know we're going to have any questions and just wanted to check in with Katie to see if there were any that came in.
All right. Thank you so much for your presentation. That was awesome. I think that's all we have for today. If there's no more audience questions coming through the chat. Thank you to our audience for joining us, and thank you again to Colette for your presentation. I hope that everyone has a great rest of your days, and as a reminder, the webinar will be available for on-demand viewing in about 24 hours. And with that, I think that we're all wrapped up.